So with all the mobility work and all the bodyweight work and the calisthenics we've been doing on this channel, it comes to no surprise to anyone that I've been working a lot with animal movements, and I've found them to be rather effective when it comes to muscle coordination and combining mind-muscle connections with strength endurance workouts, especially if you go through the handful of animal movements that I will show you right now and combine them with forward and backward movement. This is going to be an insane training for you, not just because you are learning to coordinate multiple muscle groups together, but also because you're building insane amounts of strength and conditioning as well as endurance that you wouldn't guess you would be having with such easy looking exercises. So if you're ready, I'm going to take you step by step through the animal movements that I find to be most effective, and we'll see how long you can go without thinking that this is absolutely exhausting. So let's get right into it.
Now to start out, we're gonna choose the easiest one, and that is the frog leap. Now you will have the required mobility of getting into a deep squat position before you can do the frog leap exercise. But other than that, there are not many strength and mobility requirements. For this one, just bring your hands between your feet and extend them forward for each jump. You want to have a full range of motion, which means that you want to bring your feet much further to the front than you have your hands. And of course, we're going to repeat the whole process backwards because we want to have the additional coordination that's required for moving backwards and forward. Again, hands between your legs and move with a tiny jump backwards. And since we want to have the full range of motion, that means your hands are behind your feet before you move into the jumping position. We're also keeping our legs low, meaning our hips are always moving downwards into a full deep squat. Moving on to one of my favorites by far, and that is the bear crawl. For the bear crawl, you'll have both your arms almost fully extended at the front. We have a slight bend in our knees, and we want to have our hips higher than our shoulders, meaning we actually need to extend upwards slightly while still keeping our back in a neutral or semi-extended position, meaning your lumbar spine is slightly extended and your back is straight. So we have our hips higher than our shoulders, and of course moving backwards again. As you can see, we're using the left hand with the right leg and the right hand with the left leg, basically working vice versa, left to right and right to left backwards. Moving on to the first monkey. This is the low monkey, I call it, and basically you're gonna notice while our arms are pretty much extended and the same as with the bear crawl, except that instead of using open palms, we are using our fists. The difference is our hips are much lower, meaning we want them to have at least lower than our shoulders for the movement to be correct. So keep your hips low, keep your arms extended, and you're gonna notice this is gonna require a lot more strength in your legs than the bear crawl, because the bear crawl was more like forward leaning, so you had your arms keeping up most of the weight, and now with the gorilla or the lower monkey, you have most of the weight on your legs, and now we're moving symmetrically, left with left and right with right. Which moves us to our second monkey, the sideways monkey. Again, we have our arms fully extended, we are moving on our fists, and we have our hips as low as possible. And here you're gonna notice we require a lot more hip mobility for this one to work, because we have internal and external rotation in our hip joints at the very same time. So one leg is externally rotated while the other leg is internally rotated. And since there is no backwards or forward here, we're basically just moving to the left side and then repeating the whole process again by moving to the right side. And we're gonna switch monkeys one more time, and I call this one the long monkey, one leg fully extended, because we want to have a longer range of motion this time. And what that does is we have an additional stretch in our biceps femoris, our gastric and soleus, basically the whole backside and the inside of our extended leg, while still having the combination of internal and external rotation in our hip joint. So we have a lot of mobility requirements, but we are still keeping our hips as low as possible. So again, most of the movement is coming from our legs, and most of the required strength will be coming from our legs and from our quadriceps in general. So extend one leg, move all the way to the side, and then we do a tiny jump, extending the next leg and repeating the whole process again to the left side and of course to the right side. Moving on to the giraffe. For the giraffe, you're gonna require a lot more mobility, because for one, we want to keep both legs and arms fully extended, and we want to have our back at the very least in a neutral position, meaning as straight as possible. And for that to happen, we need a lot of hamstring mobility and a lot of posterior chain mobility. We also want to keep most of the weight on our arms while moving again diagonally, meaning the left hand with the right leg and the right hand with the left leg. Full extension in all four, full neutral position in your back. If you can go into a lumbar extension, even better. And of course, we want to repeat the whole process backwards. And as you can see, it is not as easy as it was when we moved forward, because the coordination part is getting harder, and sometimes you can see I'm doing tiny mistakes of moving both sides at the same time. And we continue moving on to either you can call it the upright shrimp or you can call it the duck walk. Basically, we want to raise one leg, bring both knees to the ground simultaneously, and then repeat the whole process with the other side. Now here you're gonna notice there is a lot of stretching in our anterior chain, meaning our hip flexors at the front, our quadriceps is getting a nice little stretch, this time on the right side, and then when I move forward with the right leg on the left side. And here I would recommend to slow the movement down, especially while bringing your knee to the ground, because you're gonna hit it hard and you might hurt yourself. Now I tried doing this backwards, which is something I don't do often, but it was way too hard for me at least to coordinate. So if you can do that, good for you. I still need to work on this a little bit, but I found it to be very interesting that this is the only one that I cannot reverse. So we're doing forward one more round, because we don't want to miss on the strength gains as well as the coordination gains. Be sure to stay upright in your upper body as much as you can. Which moves us to our final and hardest exercise, and that would be the lizard walk. Now the lizard walk not only requires a lot of coordination, but we want to have full rotation in our lumbar spine, and we're gonna require a lot of strength for this exercise. So start in a push-up position, and then we move the left leg with the right arm and the right leg with the left arm. We also want to rotate our lumbar spine and our hips fully, and we want to stay as close as possible to the ground. Now, if forward was hard, then keep in mind that backwards is gonna be so much harder, especially because we have to coordinate and we have to push backwards fully. So this is gonna be a little bit of a challenge at least.
So that was 10 minutes of animal movements. I tried not taking any breaks in between, just to show that even though I've been doing this for a very long time, it is still really exhausting to coordinate all of those things and to keep the right rhythm, especially when you're moving backwards. But I can really recommend you try those out. Start building on your mind-muscle connection. You're going to notice that this is not only a coordination workout, but also a strength endurance workout, and you can take it even further if you want to add multiple other animal movements. I have a lot of guides on those here. If you want to do multiple rounds, you can also do that. But even if you just stay with one round of each of those, forward and backward, once a day or twice a day, that's 10 to 15 minutes of workout, you're going to be amazed at all the benefits you're getting from what you're doing. I hope this was helpful. I'm very happy you could join us, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. If you liked the video, subscribe, and Captain Cairo, as always, peace out.